Mr. Joshua Kirk. He is once again joining me because this is our show,
Hi.
not my show. It's not his show. It's our show. Oh wait, you know what? Crap. I think I just screwed it up. I am so sorry. Hold on. Gallery view. There we go. I had to do it on gallery view. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. My name is Brian. This is take 2 because I screwed it up the first time as Josh is laughing at me. But thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys are ready for what's on repeat. This is for July and August because this is kind of the way we want to do it. We are so ecstatic about the first episode, and we are so excited to bring this new one to you guys. Once again, I say we. The guy that's laughing at me, Joshua Kirk. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm in a weird place right now. I feel a little sick. It's not COVID. I think I ate too much of my dinner all at once, so like my stomach feels really bloated. So I'm like, ugh, right now. But we're gonna get through this. It's gonna be great. If you guys haven't already, I'm just gonna start off top with this. If you haven't seen the first episode, go check it out. I don't know if it'll be in the description or I'll put something at the end of this video. And if you haven't checked out Joshua's channel, you should because he has great album reviews. That's why I have him here. This is a show for music lovers by music lovers. The way we break it down, we do albums we've been listening to specifically in July and August. Then we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to talk about the singles we've been listening to that are leading up into albums that we will be hearing soon. And then we will talk about artists that we haven't heard from and have really no idea if they're coming out. And we're just going to share that. And the numbers are going to be a little bit different this time around than the last one, mainly because it is 2 months and not a half a year, like 6 months. So we're going to have less stuff to talk about. So I think it's going to be, it's going to be a more packed, shorter episode with not so much to go on about. I started the first time around, but we're going to let Joshua start this first time around. So he is going to tell us about his albums that he has been listening to since July to the end of August. Joshua, what is your list?
So I'm going to kick things off on, a bit of an indie rock kind of note and talk about the new album from the Beths called Jump Rope Gazers. This is a quartet from New Zealand that, first kind of broke out in the indie scene in 2018 with a critically acclaimed album called Future Me Hates Me. What they're doing is, it's not like super inventive indie pop, but it does have some really solid hooks. It's like quite charming, definitely some introspection in there as well. They're a band that I've heard about since like 2018, but wasn't until this album when I finally gave them a listen, and I kind of see what all the hype's about. It's definitely one of the better, like guitar rock projects of the year, in my opinion. Moving on from there, I am gonna go with something a little different and talk about a hip-hop record, and it's the latest from Marlowe, which is the duo between producer Larange and rapper Solemn Brigham. The album is called Marlowe 2, following up the first Marlowe record, which kind of like the Beths album came out in 2018, and it was definitely a record that I really liked. It's definitely one of my favorite hip-hop albums of 2018, even if, there was still plenty of room for improvement. And I think with this album, they really made those improvements very well. Like, Larange is one of those hip-hop producers who's like really creative and eclectic with his samples. I mean, his samples on this album specifically go from like, bluegrass fiddle being sampled on a track, as well as there's one track on here called Otherworld where there's some like what sounds like some sort of Middle Eastern vocal kind of sampled on there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh yeah, and also I really feel like Solemn Brigham's lyrical game has really improved on this project. Favorite track on this thing is probably OG Funk Rock, which is a pretty great title. Next, once again, going for another genre, and in this case, modern rock. The sophomore record from British punk outfit Creeper, called Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void. This is a band that, in terms of their sound, they've kind of been described as like horror punk as well as like, goth rock. They definitely, off this album, I definitely get some strong like My Chemical Romance vibes. Yeah, which is kind of why like when I heard this, I'm like, Brian might like this.
Oh, well, I'm gonna have to listen to it then.
They also do definitely kind of expand upon their previous record, which definitely was a little more like straightforward pop punk. This one they definitely experiment more with glam rock and vintage rock and roll, and there's some alt country in there as well. And it was really people like Spectrum Pulse and ARTV, some like experts on rock music that really introduced me into this band. And I definitely can see what all the hype is about, really excellent, very adventurous kind of rock album, for sure. The next album, I was just talking to Brian about this one, and it's absolutely one of my favorite records of the year. Was so hyped for this thing. Of course, it's the new record from Bright Eyes called "Down in the Weeds Where the World Once Was." This is a band that, of course, like pretty much needs no introduction. I mean, if you were like super emo in high school or something like that, this is like theme music for that kind of aesthetic. And I'm very pleased to say that this is a really like triumphant, ambitious, and kind of existential comeback. I mean, all the way down to like the title is like sounds rather apocalyptic, and it's kind of a record really made for these pretty dark times for sure. I really feel like with this album, whereas on older Bright Eyes records, Conor Oberst's heart sort of sound like it was on the verge of just imploding into a million pieces. Here he definitely is really tapping into his suffering, but really kind of coming to terms with it. And yeah, this is in my mind probably one of the more hopeful Bright Eyes records ever recorded.
And it was one of the artists that you brought up their single the last time. So for the
Yeah,
album to live up to
they
it,
put out at least 4 singles like prior to this record. Yeah, and
so
they were going to tour this year, but of course pandemic shut it all down.
freaking COVID.
Oh yeah, and I have one more album to talk about. This is another like this is an album that's like will come off as very unfamiliar to a lot of people that discovered this one from NPR. Really cool kind of country album. It is the album Pauline by Ashley Ray, who is a alternative country, indie country sort of singer from Lawrence, Kansas, which she does talk a lot about her upbringing and sort of her struggle, her own personal struggles and stuff like that. Yeah, like she was an artist like I did not know her at all. Listening to NPR and hearing her album mentioned, and I'm like, she sounds like quite a character. I'm gonna check her out. And I'm like, and I listened to it, and I was not at all disappointed. She has just such an incredible voice. Like, you'll definitely catch kind of an old school like Patsy Cline or like in there. Yeah, like it's really her voice that really sells this whole record for me. And also like the sound is not incredibly inventive when it comes to alt country or dream, or like as Spectrum Pulse would call it, dream country. Great songwriting. I think the instrumentals are beautiful, and I love how the record song musically is kind of stripped back and spare in its arrangements, but it really allows really the songwriter to come through pretty strong.
You have been one of the few people to like push me and make me interested in listening to like newer country music. So you have accomplished something really big there, Josh.
Yeah.
But no, that was a very good list. I appreciate it. So I will move into mine, but we also have one. We have a shared one, so I will save that to the end of my list. Before I actually get into these albums more so, it's been like a weird kind of 2 months. I've just been so busy, and I really have only been listening to like newer stuff and not going back and repeating a lot of this stuff. So a lot of these albums, I've tried my hardest to keep listening to. An artist that Josh and I feel like share a lot of love and respect for is 100 Gex.
Yes.
Their remix album, 1,000 Gex and the Tree of Clues. If you know 100 Gex, it's as interesting as you would think, like in terms of the collaborations, in terms of what these artists do remix wise. And there are some like legitimate like bangers that, or people like songs that are bangers that they made even bigger bangers, and songs we've heard of.
Yeah.
Like,
like I'll put in there a couple examples. Like I Would Never Stop You with Tommy Cash and Hannah Diamond.
That's really good.
Yeah, and also the Black Dresses remix of 745 Sticky. Like as soon as the screams came in, I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, hell yeah.
Obviously, the ringtone remix with Caro Caro Bonito and Charlie XCX and
Yeah.
Nasty's great. I love the 745 Sticky remix with Injury Reserve. Rest in peace, Groggs. I thought that's a good song.
Yeah.
I really like the one with Patrick Stump of Fall Out Boy, Hand Crushed by Small Mallet, right? Or Hand Crushed by Mallet.
Hand Crushed by Mallet.
I thought that was a song, that was like, a good remix, I thought.
I mean, initially when I saw Fall Out Boy, I was a little bit scared, but it actually turned out to be a banger.
Yeah, I thought his vocals were really wild and like just like loud and bright. And then I think the song gets really crazy, but no.
It reminds me of Code Orange's latest album. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. There is some very interesting like industrial elements on this album, but yeah, it made a very short experimental album even more expressive, and to see these different versions is very interesting. So, but great album. Next, I'm going to go to a hip-hop album, just like Joshua. This is probably the latest edition, and this was an album that was on my radar. I didn't know if I wanted to listen to it right away, but I did, and God almighty, I'm glad. It's the new Nas album, King's Disease. When Kanye was doing his, like, Good Music Friday for, like, Ye and Kids See Ghosts, I didn't think Nasir was, like, bad or anything. I actually thought it was better than most people thought. However, I don't think Nas delivered on that album that he should have. I definitely think it was more of Kanye put together good beats. Nas seemed uninspired. This album, the moment the Hit Boy beat comes in and the moment Nas comes in, he sounded way more interesting and way more interested than the whole Nasir album. I thought the beats were great. Hit Boy did a really good job diversifying it. The features here and there were kind of hit and miss. Like, and I don't mean miss like they were terrible. It's just some didn't work for me. Overall, I think Nas entering 46, 47 years old at this point, this is what we want. I feel like this is this is that standard of a legendary MC like that. And a lot of what he was talking about on it was great. And again, I felt like he just was writing better and he just sounded more interested. So definitely a good one. It's a short one too, so definitely give it a listen if you can. To country, this is probably the first ever time I have a country album on my list.
Yeah.
Formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, but now the Chicks, Gaslighter. Yeah. I was interested because I do like the Chicks. Excuse me. I do like the Chicks, and I didn't hear any songs on this album. The moment I heard Gaslighter, I literally went like, "Please, God, let the rest of this album be half as good as this song." Because that song is awesome. What a great way to start an album. The songwriting's just awesome.
Oh yeah, like that hook.
And the hook is great. It's just good pop country. And yes, I think there are definitely a couple slacking songs on the album, but for the most part, every once in a while, I'll hear like some of the melodies in my head, and I'll just be singing them to myself, and they're just ingrained in my head. But it's great. I think it's really good. Good pop country, and Jack Antonoff I think did a very job with it. Like it didn't seem like it's kind of but
it's kind of interesting. He's been all over the place for the last few years. Yeah. Working with like Lorde, St. Vincent, Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, just all over the place, man.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's been really good. But I don't think he's a bad producer. I was just nervous, like, what is he gonna do? And he did a really good job. So, but to another hip hop album, this is an album that I kind of was excited about from the singles. That is Amine.
Amine.
Amine, whatever, however you want to say his name. So I think this is just a great rap record. There's great fun tracks, great emotional tracks, great braggadocious tracks. Again, rest in peace, Groggs. Injury Reserve killed it. Jid killed it. Slow Tie and Vince Staples killed it. And then, of course, Amine killed it.
They should have given Slow Tie more time for his verse, though.
They should have. I am not the biggest Slow Tie fan, but I do think I think he's good. Like, I do think he's talented.
Yeah.
And I felt the same
It's
way.
kind of like, I like Slow Tie, that I don't quite, I didn't quite love his debut album in the same way, people like Anthony did.
I thought it was okay, to be honest. But yeah, I agree. I think that he needed more time. But yeah, I think like some of the sampling is really interesting. Compensating is like one of my favorite singles of the year. I love it. I love the compensating for your fan. It's just such a fun track. There's clever lines. I think
and there's got to be a Thugger feature on there.
Of course. Like such a wide range of verses, like features on this album. Amine was always a rapper that I respected. I never loved him, but I definitely thought he had style and he had personality. I never fully connected with him. This album did it. I really like it. And I think it's definitely one of those albums where if you need a song for a certain mood, he did a lot on this album. I never would have seen the day in my life that I would put this artist in albums that I've listened to. Because let me tell you something. I've never liked this artist. I've always hated this person. Like, I never understood them. There were some songs that I'm like, whatever, but I've never. And then when I saw who was involved, I got mad because I'm like, great, do I have to listen to this? And I did. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I did enjoy Folklore by Taylor Swift.
I am in the same position as you, Brian. Like, god damn.
Like, I'm going to tell you this. I saw she did a song with Bon Iver, and I got so mad. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah, and the track itself is beautiful, too.
The moment I heard the song, I listened to it 10 times in a row. I'm like, this is fucking beautiful and heartbreaking. Their vocals, I'll be honest,
but of course
I really did like it more for Justin than for Taylor, but I think Taylor does a good job. But the production on this album, I do think it gets a little old at a certain point. I don't think this album's perfect, but Bryce from obviously The National, I think he does a really good job. And I know Jack Antonoff did a couple songs in like the middle, which is weird. Yeah, I like Jack Antonoff. I actually think the middle part of the album is kind of the part where I'm like, okay. I think the beginning and the ending are like really good. Like Mad Woman, like you said, Exile is amazing. I love it.
And I'm going to kind of correct you on there. It's actually Aaron Dessner.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It handles most of the production and writing on this thing.
I didn't necessarily want it. I felt nervous because I didn't want to just say that guy from The National to feel like an idiot, but clearly I am because I got the wrong one. But yes, thank you for correcting me. But no, I think Aaron did a really good job. I think he made such a moody album. I think she got out of, like Mad Woman, for example.
Her songwriting is incredibly strong here. I will say that.
I think that song, if it was on a previous album, it would have came off as like, oh my God, like I get it. But like on this album, I just feel like she's more in tune with writing smarter songs. Like she's not doing the whole, I was with a dude, now I'm not, now I'm going to write a song about, like it's not that. Like I feel like she's actually writing a very cohesive story, like a very moody set of songs. And again, I'm mad. I'm so mad. But it's good. And I can't hate. There's an album that Josh and I kind of share. I'm not going to say her name because clearly I don't know which one of the members of The National did the Taylor Swift album. So I'm going to have you say her name for me.
Yeah. It's the self-titled album from Leanne LaHavas. Okay. British, like, soul, R&B, singer-songwriter. It's definitely kind of my album in the month for July, and also my favorite R&B album of the year so far. I don't know if I'm going to get another album that's probably going to be better than this, but at the moment, this thing is just like, her singing is like so beautiful on this thing. I've heard a lot of people say that she's really matured and really coming to her own. Since this is coming 5 years after her last record, 2015's Blood.
Yeah, I've never heard of her. This was definitely an Anthony recommendation, and I've never
Oh yeah, because he gave this shit the yellow flannel. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where once in a while I like listening to newer artists and whatnot. So this is my first time listening to her, and I was just very impressed like how dense the
Oh yeah.
musicality on her album is.
Yeah.
It's just very layered. Her Radiohead cover was like
Oh yeah.
so good.
Oh
So
yeah.
good.
I mean, as like I'll say it, like Radiohead is probably my favorite band of all time. So like sort of hearing her own version of it, I'm like, man, Tom York would be proud.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just very thrown away. Like I think like I was saying, like it's very dense. I think she's a great singer. I think she's very expressive. And I think this honestly is an album that I have not revisited because I think it is so dense, but because it's so much. But I think if I revisit it, I will see things that I haven't seen or heard. But I'm ready to jump back into it because, like you were saying, like I think
it is so unlike me. I've already listened to this thing 3 times, and it's also definitely got some jazz elements to it as well. Like Sour Flower has that really interesting kind of like breakdown where you have the incredible drums and the upright bass and the Fender Rhodes piano.
Yeah.
Just
And
like sounded so beautiful on there.
And you were even saying like because it's like it kind of is an R&B album, but like you said, it doesn't fit that a lot of the times. Like she's doing very interesting genre bending things that you kind of forget it's like R&B. Like you're just sort of like you said, like there's jazz and then there's kind of pop elements, and you're like,
and there's like indie in there as well.
So you're like, is this even an R&B album? It's really weird. I agree.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's very interesting. Those are our 6 albums, 5 separate and our own shared one that we thought were good from July and August. Hopefully, if you guys have listened to them, you can comment on them, or if you haven't, you should go listen to them. But we're gonna take a break because we're gonna talk about some singles that are coming up on upcoming albums and an artist or two, who knows, that we're like, come back. So we'll see you guys in a minute. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. Obviously, it was probably like a 2-second break like it was last time. But we are here to talk about some singles on upcoming albums. I'll be honest, I kind of had a hard time because I was telling him off camera, and I know I said beginning of this whole video as well a little bit. It's been weird for me lately, trying to catch up with music and sort of listening to a lot. This list completely changed for singles because I think I had like Sufi and Steven stuff, but then I wasn't listening to it that much because I'm kind of like, I'm interested in the full album. And then there's songs that I'm like, I don't think they're songs I'm listening to all the time, but I think these are the best examples of songs that like I've been enjoying, or I'm like making me interested in projects coming up. The first one, which we know we have a release date for, and it'll be coming out in October, but it is not the first, but the second single from Future Islands called Thrill. It's a very divisive song.
It's funny. I haven't heard it yet, so I can't really comment on it right now.
It's a very slow burn. The music video is just Sam singing to the camera, which kind of haunts you because like he just gets right into your soul singing. I like the progression. I like the synth leads on it. I personally think Sam is very expressive, as obviously as he always is. When I first heard it, I didn't feel like it flowed very well until I listened to it again and again. And I feel like the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, again, it's not like one of those songs where you're supposed to listen to it all the time, but I feel like this is a very unique example of what I'm interested in for this new album, because I feel like this is one of the more stripped down songs, even though it's really not. But the build and the structure of this song is, I think, unlike anything Future Islands has done, it, at least to my knowledge. And I feel like the first single that came out, it sounded like Future Islands. It was very upbeat, and it had kind of that driving, like, huge chorus. But it was like, okay, it's fine. Whereas this is a little bit different, and like, I don't know. There's just something raw and emotional about this song. So I'm definitely excited for their new album.
My first single, I'm gonna, go to something that, of course, you and I, Brian, we pretty much both love this band. Of course, it's not one, but 2 singles from Idols, A Hymn and Model Village. Of course, I'm going to kick things off by saying A Hymn. It's like the least aggressive song they've dropped to tease for this record, but what really makes it so cutting is like, just like the lyrics along with like Joe Talbot's performance and just like
Yeah.
the it kind of makes your skin crawl a little bit. It's sort of like the more existential cousin of like the song June off of their last record, which while it wasn't the heaviest song, musically, thematically though, it is pretty depressing for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of like with that Future Island song, it's like, it's a little different. It has this sort of long, drony kind of like burner, out intro, and then like it bleeds into the like opening guitar so beautifully. Definitely one of the sort of crazier tracks, Isles tracks in terms of its structure. But then, of course, there is Model Village, which is way more urgent and just like blistering. Like, Joe is like spitting out plenty of quotable lines, like "not a racist fault in the village." There's a lot of pig skin in the village. He's like, he's repeating like in the village at the end of each sentence and like delivering it in such a menacing way. It's sort of like on a song like Well Done, he'd be like, "Why don't you get the job? Mary Berry's got the job. Yeah, so why don't you get the job?" It's like, and also it has a pretty dope music video directed by Michael Gondry.
Yeah.
Like the cutout animation is just like, it's like so cool. Ultramono can't come soon enough. I need this album in this just god awful year.
No, I agree. I did listen to Model Village. I did like that. A Hymn was the one I still need to listen to, and I think I only didn't listen to it because I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait for the album. And I did hear it was very different, because I did hear a part of it, and I was kind of like, this isn't as aggressive as the other two songs. Like, it doesn't.
It's a kind of song, it's not really as addictive as Model Village, but like, it's still like, when you really allow yourself to appreciate it, it's bound to be one of the highlights of this album.
And maybe, and that's the thing, maybe it'll fit really well on the album and the flow of it. So that's why I'm
waiting. I mean, that's the kind of thing with singles. Sometimes I'm kind of on a couple of them, but then when I hear them in the context of the album, they grow on me, and I'm like, I see where they fit in there.
I will say, for a single that I'm like interested is "Ate Up All the Cake" by Bon Iver. This is their second single this year from following Please Don't Live in Fear. I didn't talk about Please Don't Live in Fear, not because I didn't like it, but I was like, I thought it was like kind of a one-off.
Yeah.
And then they put out this song, and at the beginning it says season 5. And I'm like, wait, are we getting this? Is this going to be a 5th album coming?
I'm actually kind of hoping for 5th album. I mean, the last Bon Iver record was awesome.
Yeah. I loved their last record. Like, that was one that I heard it the first time, and I think the more I listened to it, it just grew so much. I think these two records are, I think the only part of it that's semi-upsetting is these two songs. They just feel like an extension of I, which is fine, because I love it. I was just hoping it would be, I guess the difference is like the addition of all these new collaborators and
and also the vocal sounds more processed. It's kind of like, it's kind of like 22 a Million kind of thing, but like better in my opinion.
Because I love the voice processing on 22 a Million. I love that record, but it's
I kind of, it's one of those records where I listened to 22 a Million once, and I didn't like that album when I heard it.
No, and I understand it too, but this song, it feels like it's experimental, but like you said, like it's the voice of it, like, the chipmunk vocals, but there's like this interesting passion and just the
and it's got this like alt country kind of vibe, because like the fiddle even sounds pitched up a little bit in the mix, which is kind of interesting.
These two songs are very good, and I think what Justin's been doing is interesting, but I will say, like, again, like, season 5, because he said all of his albums go with the season, so this is season 5. New album. The fact that it's gonna take only a little over a year for a possible new Bon Iver record is the craziest thing ever.
Yeah,
it takes forever. So, but
Yeah.
yes, that is my second single.
Yeah, my other single is like it's completely different in vibe from the Idol song, and it's yet another song where it sounds familiar, but yet sounds pretty different as well. It's one of the latest singles from the Avalanches, "Wherever You Go," which features some additional production from my boy Jamie XX, and some guest vocals from Calypso and Nene Cherry. The Avalanches are like a Australian, like, it's kind of hard to describe their sound. I mean, like, they released a pretty influential and I think fantastic debut album that is made entirely out of samples. It's like, Plunderphonics, or, it's some sort of like, Jay Dilla, Beastie Boys kind of shit happening. Uh, yeah, and then they followed it up, believe it or not, 16 years after that debut album with Wildflower, which they had been working on for a little while. And I like it. I mean, it's got some great songs on it, but like, I feel like in terms of flow, it's like, that the album doesn't flow too well, and it feels kind of, all over the place. It's like, it's not as great as the critics said it was. But these new songs, I really like how they seem to be going for like a Wildflower sort of vibe on these songs, but this time around the songs sound way more cohesive and much better developed. Like, this song is a perfect example of that. It kind of starts out with this really strange, kind of eerie spoken word, and then it goes into this like, wherever you go, we go to, and then it just like bleeds into like Calypso and Nene Cherry's vocals, and then like Jamie XX's beats come in. It's like, it goes to all kinds of crazy sort of out there places, but yet it flows so well. This song is just like so epic. Like, it's 6 minutes, but it feels like 4 minutes. Does it just flow so well?
There are people out there in the world that are evil. I'm being completely funny because I don't care. I don't want artists to listen to me. We don't have control over them. You do what you guys want. But there are still artists that we personally want to put out albums that we haven't heard from, that we don't necessarily know. Maybe they put out songs, but we don't necessarily know when they're going to put out an album. So, Joshua, who are you begging and pleading for?
Oh, yeah.
An album.
Oh, yeah. The artist I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go indie once again and talk about Japanese Breakfast, which is the musical project of singer-songwriter Michelle Zauner. First garnered some critical acclaim around 2016 with a debut album called Psychopomp. Personally, was not really a big fan of it. I just felt like, there were some good ideas in there, and I felt like, it's just okay. And then they put out this album in 2017 called Soft Sounds from Another Planet. And when I first listened to this album, I was just like, immediately just like, oh my God, I'm just floating. This is so good. She does a really interesting blend of like indie rock and dream pop, and there's definitely some synthwave elements. I mean, she even, like, there's a song in that album called Machinist where she's like, using auto-tune on the vocals, and it just like, it sounds so cool over like what sounds like kind of an sort of an updated version of like some sort of gauzy 80s synth pop or something. She did put out a couple of singles under the Japanese Breakfast name in early 2019, and I thought, these are pretty cool. We're probably not as good as, the fantastic album she's coming off of, but it's like, this is yet another artist that I'm begging for another record from, because their last one was just so beautiful and melancholy. Like, definitely fits right in with that kind of new school of like kind of angsty, sort of like dreamy like indie music that's like happening right now. And let's face it, people like Phoebe Bridgers are they're everywhere now. Yeah.
Oh, Phoebe. Way to bring it back to Phoebe, Josh.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, yeah. Well, it is my album of the year so far. So yeah, you're gonna hear me name drop her a lot.
Hey, you know what? If I have to deal with it, I have to deal with it. It is a great album, though. But no, that is a really good pick. I'm going for a more basic sort of white girl or like basic internet girl pick, and that is
Yeah.
Frank Ocean.
Why not?
Why not? Because he put out an album over 4 years ago. We're back to another 4-year drought. It doesn't feel as annoying, though, because we got Endless, and then we got Blonde, and then really, right after those albums.
We got like lots of singles.
That's what I was gonna say. Like all of 2017 and 18, like he was just dropping so much with like Tyler. He had the biking thing with Tyler and Jay-Z. He had like Chanel. He did Moon River. He did the cover of Moon River like last year too. Like he's been doing just a bunch of stuff. I know he's been putting out like those weird remixes of his songs, like club remixes. Dear April is the one I can think of where that was one of the few that I've actually been like kind of into. I really liked because he put out like DHL. He did like a couple other songs, I think, and they've been all kind of like in weird, like I don't know if I'm into them so much or not.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know if we're gonna have to wait another 4 years after this or if it's gonna come out sometime soon.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing with, an album like Blonde. I mean, like, as much as we love that album, we do have to admit it is a messy album for sure.
It is messy, but it's so
oh yeah, I love that album too.
That was Frank, I think, not people looked at Channel Orange and they're like, oh my god, blah blah, and he went into Blonde and he's like, I don't care what you guys want, like I'm gonna do what I want, and just everyone dogs that album because they think it all sounds the same or it's sleep. You don't listen.
Or that it's all over the place. I mean, there's a couple of there's a couple of meh tracks on there. Like for example, I don't think the album has a great ending. For example, that's just me.
I think it was an experiment gone very, very right, and like we were all thrown off with the Endless thing, and I even thought Endless was like very interesting and experimental. This isn't me getting mad, Frank. I'm not forcing you. It's been over 4 years again. What the hell, man? But yeah, so that's who I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
At nearing the end of this crazy year, maybe he just thought we don't need music in this crazy year, but he should. Because we need music. Thank you guys for watching so much, and thank you guys for thinking this is so good to watch it and to view it. But if you guys agreed or disagreed or have any thoughts about any of these topics, leave them in the comments below.
Yeah.
Once again, Joshua, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Dude, he's the homie. Like, he's the best co-host ever, and it's great for us to be back and doing this. And yes, we will be back at the end of October.
Yes.
We have a September and October one.
Oh yeah.
Great. We're still getting in the gear with things. We're trying to lock it in, but I think this has been really, really fun. So Josh, do you have anything else to say before we end it?
I just want to say once again, thank you for having me on here. I mean, it's definitely great to find some other way to review new music other than just doing one on my YouTube channel.
Doing extensive 25-minute reviews.
Oh, yeah.
I think all these picks are great, so you should go listen to them, add them to your playlist. We'll be back. You can follow us on all the social media. You can subscribe to our channels if you liked it. Definitely subscribe to Josh, because if you want like more in-depth music, you should go subscribe to him, because I only do that at the end of the year for classic reviews. But if you want to subscribe for those, we have some fun ones coming at the end of the year, so it's pretty good. So,
yes.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for making the channel BK. Peace out, guys.
Yeah. See ya. Bye.